Oika halal yamla Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Bahashem Rachaha Kodash. As it is written, let the elders, the rule, be counted worthy of double honors, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine, which are the Presbyterian of Great Millstone, beginning with the elder apostles, the elder bishops, and the elders on down. Peace and salutation to all Yaiqab of the hopeful elect. May Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Bahashem Rachaha Kodash, Barakatham. Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father, whom the world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh means He to be, He is, He exists, okay, the existing one, all right? And Yahweh Shai is the true name of His only begotten Son, whom the world ignorantly calls JC. Yahweh Shai means the deliverer or His Savior, okay? Or His salvation, and that's the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, and the Messiah that came to die for the sins of Israel, beginning with the elect, all right? And the Ruach HaKodesh is the Spirit Holy. These are the names they're supposed to call upon and pray to, especially you so-called Negroes, Latinos, or Native Americans. I know they want the heathen, they may look like the heathen, but still land goes back to the patriarchy of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob on your father's side. Shalom, sons of Yasharallah. My name is Gabor of the Hopeful Election from the Company of Prophets in Toronto, and today is July the 7th, right? Tuesday, July the 7th, another day closer to the deliverance of the elect of Israel and the destruction of Babylon the Great, aka America, which America and the state of Israel are going to be destroyed pursuing biblical prophecy, okay, because of all the atrocities and all the wickedness that they've committed on the earth. Okay, but Israel is going to be rebuilt back up again, and it's going to be restored as a kingdom of Allah Yahweh Shai, or as a headquarters of the kingdom of Allah Yahweh Shai here on the earth. But America is going to remain a desolate wilderness. It's going to be burning for a long time, and it's going to be turned to a desert. Okay, so I want to say, any day now, all hell could break loose. All hell could break loose as going to a time in the scriptures known as Jacob trouble, or Tazarah Yaiqab in the Hebrew. It's going to be a time of great distress, great pain and suffering. Okay, great havoc and great unrest amongst the people, especially in America. Okay, this is going to be a time of judgment. Okay, the time when all hell is going to break loose, and there won't be any form of authorities to basically come in and put things back in order. Okay, it's going to be so bad to a point even the Lord Yahushua said that if those days are not shortened, that there should no flesh be left to be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days are going to be shortened. So that's why it's incumbent for you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans to repent and to get right, to seek the Heavenly Father, whilst the doors of mercy are still open. Okay, I just want to say the Shabbat this month, still Sunday, from Sunday evening to Monday evening, but it's going to be changing this coming weekend. The coming weekend is going to be the new Shabbat is going to be from Monday evening to Tuesday evening. So it's going to be a double Shabbat coming up this weekend. So going into this touch on the fact that America is really going through is at a crossroads right now. Okay, if that's the right way to put it. Okay, America is really being basically being confronted with the truth, with its past, okay, and its present and its future, because they just came out of celebrating 250 years of independence, so called, okay, and the whole celebration was very it had a lot of fails, okay, all things that didn't go well. There was a very low turnout, okay, and also the fact of the matter is that people are now looking back at the history of America, okay, and it's clear to see that it's not glorious, okay, it's not there's nothing there's nothing really to glory about. There's nothing to be proud about, because America was built upon bloodshed, okay, theft, murder, right, and destruction. Okay, so ultimately the fact of the matter is that there's not really much to celebrate, having that history. Okay, so really that's why when you watch all these videos that they were having with Trump making his speeches, the people that were there was mostly Edomites. It was mostly like Caucasians. Even America is like a melting pot. America is supposed to basically have all kinds of people together. Okay, it was really about basically the country itself and the people that call themselves the American citizens. They should have more than a bigger or a wider range of national so-called races that were there, but it was mostly just so-called Caucasians. You see, that's the fact that's the point of the matter, that that the fact that these really you Edomites, the ones that actually promote or profit from America's hegemony. Okay, everybody else has been suffering at your expense. Okay, that's the truth, man. And now you have these so-called Proud Boys coming out, not like they're not Proud Boys, but they call themselves believes like the Patriotic Front. Yes, the Patriotic Front, but same thing as the Proud Boys, because Americans they're the most proud, and the Proud Boys is one of the one of the right wing nationalistic movement. Okay, that basically promotes white supremacy. Okay, and their claim is that they're trying to reclaim America back. And why is that? That's because they see that their strength or their power is dwindling. The so-called white supremacy is coming to is dwindling. And the fact of the matter is that really the truth is that Esau is catching the curses that were the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans have been catching. Okay, then basically the curses are being turned back onto them. Can you go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, goes into the curses and the blessings, and tells you that in the book of same book in the 30th chapter, it tells you that basically the Most High is going to reverse these curses upon our enemies. Okay, and right now so Edom is catching hell. It's going through hell. You see all these people making videos about how they are having a hard time earning a living. Okay, being able to afford the cost of living, and it's mostly Edomites that are crying out. Okay, they see that the government that they put in is not really benefiting them, is not serving them as it was supposed to. Okay, they're being, a lot of them are going homeless. They're losing their jobs. Okay, they're losing their, their freedoms that they had. Okay, especially with the pandemic. Once the pandemic hit, it was really, everything basically it put everything back, to basically it put everything on the same level. Everyone really, so you had people that were, that were stuck home. It didn't matter who you were. You had to basically abide by the laws, okay, by the by the decrees. And so you had these Edomites, that were used to so-called white privilege, that they can't they can't use it anymore. They can't basically partake in the so-called white privilege as it is as they used to. Now you have all the other nations coming in and they're taking your jobs. You also have AI coming in. They're taking your jobs. They're taking your your resources. All right. And now you Americans are suffering for it, man. So now you have the point where these so-called these men, okay, they're going out marching, trying to basically say that they don't to reclaim back their land. But the fact of the matter is that America is not going to can be reclaimed. America is destined for destruction. America is destined for for the recompense of all the of its wicked past history that is been involved in, right? So I'm going to get the scripture right here just to start with. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 7. Right, and it says, "The Lord Yahweh, thy power, will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee." Okay, so this is the Most High, Yabashmi Ashai. Okay, telling Moses that, even though people, will suffer for their wickedness, okay, for their sins that they committed, the Most High will ultimately show mercy and have mercy upon them, and is going to take away those curses and put them on their enemies. Who is the number one enemy of so-called of the tribes? The number one enemy is so-called white men. Look at the book of Psalms 83. He lays it down for you, right? So Edom is the number one enemy. Let's go and get it. There's a book of Psalms 83, verse 2, and it says, "For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee," right, have lifted up the head. Okay, and God tells you that, verse 6 says, "The tabernacles of Edom," right? Edom is so-called white man, which Esau is Edom. Edom means red. That's why, these so-called Caucasians, they're not really white. They're actually red. So the tabernacles of Edom and Ishmaelites and of Moab and of the Hagarenes. So these are the enemies of Israel, okay, the enemies of the tribes. You so-called blacks, Latinos, and the Americans. You have enemies, and the number one enemy. If you don't know by now, you should know. It's the so-called white man. The fact of the matter is that the Most High is turning this curse upon him now. Okay, now they're suffering for it. They're having, they're not able to, to afford, basically, the lifestyle that their parents were able to experience. Okay, they're barely, making it through the year, to the month, basically going paycheck to paycheck. Same thing that, the so-called the tribes have been going through. Okay, but now Edom is being confronted with that, with that fact, and now he's lashing out. Okay, so when we go to some of the curses, let's go ahead and get this. Let's go back to the book of Deuteronomy 28. I'll get the one in verse 16 and 17, right? It says, "Cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store." Okay, and now these Edomites, they're being cursed. Whether they be, they out, you have all these farmers, okay, that were in the field, okay, and the crops are not yielding, as much as they used to. Okay, if whether it be like, the weather that's not, that's not profiting them. Okay, there's it's been very dry. Okay, these farmers have been going through a lot of upsets. Okay, especially like with the weather and this long winter. Okay, at the same time too, you had a lot of farmers actually losing, okay, their crops. Okay, losing their farms. Okay, and they've been affected. Okay, but so it's not only them. It says also, curse shall it be in the city. And now you have these people that work in the city. They can barely find jobs. They're coming out of college, out of university, and they're applying for jobs, and they're not getting any callbacks because the jobs are not there as they were before. Okay, these companies are shutting down. Okay, they're going with AI, and most people are getting laid off. And now people are basically, you have to compete, with graduates that they just coming out of college, which they're trying to get jobs so they can pay off their tuition. That's, they're already coming out of school in a huge debt. So they have debts that get paid off, and those debts, they can't find jobs to pay those debts off. That's bringing about a state of perplexity, right? Go and get that as well. It says, "Cursed shall be the basket of their store." That's the same thing. That's another thing too. These Edomites, their paychecks are not really going as far as they used to. Okay, now you go to the grocery store, like the same amount you pay, like 5-10 years ago, to basically to get you like a full cart of groceries. Not only get you like a few bags. Okay, so therefore now they're suffering for not being able to, basically have the dollar that they have so much faith in, go as far as they used to. Okay, it's only being able to afford you so much. So now that's a curse the Most High is putting on the enemies, man. Right? Get this word right here, perplexity. Let's look it up. Let's see. Yeah, kind of here. The book of Luke to one was 25, and it reads, "And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations." Okay, and Esau Edom, is not immune to that. Esau Edom is going through that distress as well. Okay, but he has to he's the one that feels the most because he's on top. Everybody else, is been at the bottom, but he's been on top. And now, that is going through it. It hurts more than it would for anybody else, right? So it says, "And upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the earth is roaring," right? So then come back here, let's go to this video. I just want to say these are fair use. This is not for any monetary gain. This is only for educational purposes.
Reclaim America! Reclaim America! Reclaim America! Reclaim America! Reclaim America! Reclaim America!
another thing too, like who was not known for marching. It was mostly so-called black men that used to march. The Jake is known for marching. Going like marching around. Okay, like with their with their banners. Okay, trying to like protest. This is not really something that Issa does. Issa, he usually doesn't have anything to march for, because ultimately, he's believing, in heaven. He's been he hasn't been going through the oppression, but now he's going through the oppression. Okay, he's feeling it in his bank account. He's feeling it, in his paycheck. Okay, he's feeling it, at the grocery store. When the bills come in. Okay, the debt that he has to deal with. This is bringing, this is hitting him harder now. Is has to resort to going to marching. Same thing like so-called blacks used to do, which they still do to this day. Marching, something that that's how he said he wants to do. That shows you that this man is coming down. This man is, his time is up, man. Right? You hear these two.
May have done something.
We need flag. Flag.
In the front. That's about it. We're good. Reclaim America!
See, so this man is really, is
Totally.
is going through the curses, right? Then you also have this story that came out. This guy that got ended up getting unalived, when he was going on I guess on a cruise with his friends, right? This one Jake, his name was Nolan Wells, I think it is, right? Yeah, right, him. This so they were all on a trip, and he ended up getting like killed, and everyone around him, as you can see, the so-called white men. And this is, like I said, this is this is indicative to the fact that it tells in the scriptures that basically when adversity comes in, right? Because now that Edom is catching hell, is going to adversity, because it's gonna start showing his true colors, right? Let's go and get that. Friend cannot be known. Yeah, cannot hear. The book of Ecclesiasticus or Sirach 12 verse 8 and reads, a friend cannot be known in prosperity. So when everything was nice, when everything was was gravy. Okay, before the the pandemic, before basically America was when they were they were like at the top. Everyone was they were making money. Everyone was happy. They were going on trips, going on vacation. They're able to have it to where they had like a at least like they could afford a living. But now things are different, right? So back then they were, everything was nice, and they were really they were being buddy with Jake, right, with everybody else. So the friend cannot be known in prosperity, and an enemy cannot be hidden in adversity. So now the Edom is catching the adversity, okay, is catching hell. Okay, and it can't hide. It's gonna have to show its true colors. Okay, now it's gonna blame you, your tribes. Okay, it's gonna put the blame on the so-called migrants. Okay, so-called that's why the whole thing with the ICE detentions, right? It was putting the blame on on the migrants, on your tribes, because he sees that he feels his power dwindling, and his time he feels like his grip on on power is slipping from him. So now he has to lash out and basically blame on the people that are they are they have no defense, and it's mainly your tribes. Okay, so that's why you see these marches. Okay, you see them out there online going into like what they be like that guy Chad the Builder. Okay, all these so-called people that are rising up. Charlie Kirk, that's one of them too. Okay, they're trying to basically revert back to that white America that they grew up in, where they could abuse and use the white privilege, the expense of everybody else. But now things are being put, everything is basically, everyone is going to everyone's catching hell, and they're catching the most hell because they see that the kingdom is falling apart. Therefore, they're going to lash out. So here again, it says, a friend cannot be known in prosperity, and an enemy cannot be hidden in adversity. Right? Now, let's go back to the book of Deuteronomy. Let's see some of the adversity that they're catching. Let's get a few more here. See, it says, actually, let's go from there. Let's go to the book of, I think is Baruch, right? Yes, it's like Haggai, right? Haggai 1:6. There's another one of the curses that was upon our people, but now it's on you Edomites. It says, you have sown much and bring in little. Yeah, you eat, but you have not enough. You drink, but you are not filled with drink. You clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put it in a bag, to put it into a bag of holes. Was that it? Yeah, can. So it says you have sown much and bring in little. Once again, you work long hours a day. Okay, you're out there, from like, some people have 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Okay, they work night shifts, day shifts, but then they see the paycheck. See that how much is taken out, but from taxes. Okay, that goes to the bills, that goes to your debt, and then you barely have anything to that you can carry over. So basically, you're just living to you living to pay your bills and your debt, right? It says you have sown much by bringing little, but you have you have not enough. You drink, but you are not filled with drink. You clothe you, and there's none warm. And he that earneth wages to put into bags of holes. That goes into like the taxes that gets taken out of your paycheck before you even get it. Now Edomites are going through it too. They're feeling that stress, that pain. Okay, for one also, when Trump came into office, okay, cut off all those programs, that were benefiting the poor, and the came out that really, is mostly Edomites that actually take these benefits, right? Whether they be like, the WIC, okay, the food stamps. Israel was also taking part in that too. But most of these got closed down. So now, you have to go to work and you can better find any jobs. You see? So that's some of the criticisms. Now, this brings me to the book of Jeremiah, right? Chapter 30:7, which, like I said, as we read earlier, okay, in the book of Ecclesiasticus, it says like this, an enemy cannot be hidden in adversity. It's going to lead to a time of Jacob trouble, because that time these Edomites are going to lash out, that they're going to want to exact their pain and their vengeance on your tribes. Right? It says, Jeremiah 30 verse 6, some verse from 5, right? It says, for thus says the Lord Yahweh, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with a child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins? Basically meaning like, this is going to be a time where people are going to be very, very shaken up. They're going to be very scared. The men are going to literally, basically, lose their so-called manhood, and they're really going to be, feminized. Okay, they're going to be like little girls, right? So therefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail, and all the faces are turned into paleness. It's going to be indicative of the times we're coming into, time of Jacob trouble, once all hell breaks loose. Okay, these people are going to, they will be out here, looking high and dry, right? So verse 7 says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Like as the Apostle said, time of Jacob's trouble is going to be also a time of Esau's trouble. Because ultimately, these Edomites, they're going through it too, and they're going to suffer them. They're going to feel the pains, because they've been living high off the hog this whole time. Right now, now that they're catching it, they're going to really show the true colors and ultimately bring it out on you, on your tribes, right? So now, you see manifesting it by this guy right here that got murdered this past couple days ago, Okay, and there's gonna be more too. You saw that J kid, the J kid that ended up shooting, that shot the other kid, when they had like a school match going on. Okay, actually, no, he didn't shoot. I think he stabbed him. He got stabbed to death. The Jake ended up getting like life imprisonment, right? So these racial tensions are only going to intensify more and more as as the days goes on, because ultimately so Edom's gonna show his true colors, right? The book of Genesis chapter 27, right? Verse 36, and it reads, says, and he said, is he not he rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. Okay, so basically this is Edom, blaming his brother, okay, for something that he himself actually gave up. Because when you go into his story, the fact of the matter is that he gave up his birthright for a bowl of soup, right? So and when that happened, that was actually sealed. That was sealed, and when the time came, Jacob supplanted Esau and actually got the birthright, right? So now now the same thing now. These Edomites is going to come out and blame you tribes, okay, for him not being able to enjoy his his American dream, right, as they call it. It says, and he said, has thou not received a blessing for me? He said, you see here. It was verse 41, right? It says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. Which when you go into it, once again, Esau Edom actually, he sold his blessing, willy nilly, right? And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. So now this is going to play out, on a worldwide scale, right? This is about to happen. Time of Jacob trouble, when these racial tensions are going to really, be heightened. Okay, this past July, it's going to be there's going to be a lot more coming out, right? Like see right here, it's from the elder brother from North Carolina. It says Hannibal Lecter observes man butchered a woman and talked of eating her, right? So this is how it's going out, right? Yeah, man. And also, when they had the celebration, there was a lot of fails that happened. Like there was a couple of guys that got trapped. They're coming down, on the parachutes, dropped the American flags, and they also come, they both failed to hit the landing. See, so ultimately, Esau, he's gonna have this, is falling down, and he'll be able to catch himself. So go crash it. He's gonna crash out. Okay. So then we're going to day on the brate, how shy, and the commercial walla, wa a bad ball, shalom alaikum.